Coming up this morning on the Dattitude podcast, for the first time in many years, more Who-Dats have little or no faith this time of year that their favorite team can compete in the upcoming football season. Are they right? We'll ask our friend and NFL expert Larry Holder of The Athletic, and even if the outlook is bleak, can a great draft change that opinion? Meanwhile, we have another question, and it's related to that topic. The Saints need a good draft. Why would they even consider drafting a player like Shedeur Sanders at number 9, since there's little to no chance he would contribute this year? Sounds like a pretty good question. I think I might ask it. Well, maybe the, quote, lose on purpose numbskulls will get their wish, huh? Anyway, we got lots to get to today, including some early surprises at the Masters, some national sports news, man versus machine features a pick from yours truly today. And the last word is on our other professional sports franchise and their young coach. With 2 games left in the season, we should ask, should Willie Green stay or should he go? We also answer it. Good for you. Well, we can't answer anything until we start the show. So, Mr. Anselmo, what you got?
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? My big question of the morning is, forget everything I just asked you. How about, are you ready for the final weekend of Pelicans basketball? That is correct. We are starting and ending today's show with the Pelicans, as they will be featured in our new segment that we started on Wednesday called The Last Word. But we're getting way ahead of ourselves. First, let me tell you that this is Dattitude, episode number 361, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Friday, April the 11th, 2025. I am your host, Jim Derry. You know this, 34 and a half years, getting close to 35 years on the New Orleans sports media scene, and I thank you for being a part of this ever-growing Dattitude family. Yeah, it'll be 35 years in, well, it's not that close, I guess. It's coming up in August, so 4 months away. And then I'll have to change my script because I won't remember. I'm like Ron Burgundy. You put it in the script, I'll read it. If you don't, not. San Diego. We can agree to disagree. We can also tell you that you can be a part of this show by typing in your comment, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. And if you're watching on Facebook, which is a lot of you, why are you watching on Facebook? It's okay. I'm glad you're watching. But be a part of the Dattitude family. Subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. That is the best way to keep in touch with all we're doing all the time. You can click the bell to receive notifications. You can do all that good stuff. If you're watching, by the way, they give us a like. Those people who do the analytics and stuff, they say it helps me. Maybe you don't want to help me. Maybe you don't. Last show ever, boys and girls. See you later. I don't know. Whatever. You can get in touch with me, at least for now, on X at Jim Derry Jr. or via email, jderry@theadvocate.com. Okay, what is on the show today? Gabe's not here. So that means I got to do man versus machine by myself. That's why I call it man versus machine and not Gabe versus machine, because he's not going to be here all the time. So that means I got to be man. We got a great, I think this is the pick of this early. We just started this segment, 3-4 weeks ago? This is going to be the best pick we've ever had in this segment. Maybe not, but maybe so. I don't know. Whatever. That's coming up at the end of the show. We're going to talk a little bit about the Masters in just a second. Larry Holder is the feature. We love when Larry is here. Larry is here on Friday. It's been a little bit. In fact, I don't think he's been on the show this season yet. I think the last time that Larry was on the show, we were sitting in the convention center, and it was before the Super Bowl, and then he got bumped. I don't remember who was. I felt terrible. I don't remember who it was. I'll ask him. But he sat down. We started talking, and whoever was coming on the show, and I had to bump him, and I felt terrible. And he was like, "It's all good. It's all good." Because Larry's nice like that. But I think that was the last time he was on the show. I'll ask him. What else we got today? We're going to ask the question. We're going to show you odds on the Saints in the draft. What do the odds say on who the Saints are going to take in the draft? You might not like it. I don't like it. It's changed, but odds don't mean anything because I could tell you what did the odds say this time last year that the Falcons were going to draft a quarterback. Let's just say it was way down the list. Okay, they had just signed Kirk Cousins, shocked the world. Michael Penix got drafted, blah, blah, blah. Are the Saints going to draft Shedeur Sanders? My big question is if they are even thinking about drafting Shedeur Sanders, which I'm not convinced that the media reports are right, okay? I know I tell you to follow the odds, and the odds tell you that they are serious about it. Maybe they are. Maybe I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But we're a common sense show, and common sense tells you that it doesn't make any sense. We'll tell you why. I'll get into that more. I'm sure we're going to have a lot about that in the comments. I'll get to some comments in just a minute. But we will show you the odds on the positions. There are 8 positions. Where do the odds say the Saints are going to draft? Should you pay attention to them? We'll ask Larry what he thinks. And look, can the Saints win now? Do they not have to have a great draft? Like I said in the open, there are more naysayers right now than maybe I've ever seen to this point. I mean, naysayers galore. I mean, if you go back in time, just put yourself back in time last year, especially 2 years ago, even more so 3 years ago, the confidence level, if I even kind of talked bad about Saints, people would just stop listening because they didn't want to hear it. If I had something bad or negative to say, they just didn't want to hear it. They would turn me off. I could see the number. I know what the number is. It's kind of like starting to talk about Derek Carr. You know, don't say that. Derek Carr. You say Derek Carr, and the numbers just start plunging. It doesn't matter if you're talking about what he had for dinner last night. They don't want to hear it. Just kind of like a couple years ago. Now Jameis Winston's fun to talk about. The numbers don't go down anymore when you talk about Jameis Winston, but they used to. When it was and y'all don't remember this. Y'all probably even forgot y'all said it. But back in the day when it was Jameis Winston versus Andy Dalton, y'all love you some Red Rifle, man. Get Jameis Winston out of it. Now Jameis Winston's fun because he plays somewhere else. Y'all forget y'all didn't like Jameis Winston. Numbers don't go down anymore, but they used to. When I'd say Jameis Winston, I didn't have to whisper it. If I said it out loud, boy, people just stopped watching. Now it's like that with the quarterback of today. You know why? He ain't Drew Brees. Anyway. Forget all that. The question is, can the Saints win this year? Are they in a position to win right now? I'm going to ask Larry that question. I'm also going to answer that question as well. And you see, again, man versus machine coming up. And the last word today, new segment we just started on Wednesday. The last word. By the way, my wife didn't like very much that I said that I live in a house. She said, I'll let y'all answer it. And I know I'm asking mostly men this question when I ask this. She said it was sexist to say that because I live in a house with 3 females and me and the dog happens to be male, by the way. But because I live in a house with 3 females, that I can never get the last word. I'm just telling you what I perceive to be fact. So the only way for me to have the last word is to do it on my show. On my show, I can have the last word because I control the little buttons, I can say whatever I want. I could decide whether it's last or not last. It's the only way I can. Anyway, she said that was sexist. What do you think? I mean, I'm not trying. Look, I'm always promoting my girls, my ladies. I mean, I'm not proud. If it weren't for my wife, we'd probably be living in an apartment somewhere. Just saying. I'm always rooting for my girls. My son doesn't live here. It's just me and the girls. That's who it is. Being sexist. Just telling you what I see. Anyway, you know what else I see? I see my friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. Is that you or someone you know? It's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemelt. I have no idea if they get the last word at their house or not. Maybe I'll ask Nick one day. By the way, Nick's show you my ADHD is kicking in. Nick's a big Willie Green fan. I'm going to tell you what I think about Willie Green coming up. Last word. Should he stay or should he go? I want your opinion as well. That's coming up. Back to Evangeline. They will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices either on Poydras Street in Lafayette or in Lafayette. From there, you will be well informed to begin to make the decision on if you decide to proceed. What happens after that? Well, you'll have to wait a little bit. We'll fill you in more after Larry is on the show. But in the meantime, you can check him out at www.evangeline.securities.com. Larry coming on about 11:20. So we got about 10 minutes to chat before he gets here. We got some comments in the queue. Phil Mariande, good morning from Texas. A-Town is here. Good morning. Kyle Sherman, good morning, Dattitudinals. Mark Gapsky, good morning. Welcome. Gary's here. Good morning. John Pace. Who Dat Daddy's here? Are you here? Are we still on Shador Watch? Of course we are. I'll tell you what I think. Phil says wants to know, has anyone reviewed Shador Sanders' films? Look like he will need a large amount of bench time to learn. Now he looks slow to throw to open receivers. We'll ask Larry what he thinks. He's definitely not ready to he's not going to start next year, which, again, goes to my question. We'll get to that in a little bit. Don't want to get ahead of myself. Goes to the question. If the Saints need a good draft to compete this coming year, they might not need that. But if they do, why would they even consider drafting a Shador Sanders? You got a $50 million quarterback that's not going anywhere this year, and there's an excellent chance, unless you want to eat $60 million or whatever the hell it's going to be next year, which they're probably not going to do, good chance he's here next year too. Maybe they want a Shador Sanders to come in here and sit for 2 years. I can tell you one person who wouldn't want that. His nickname is Prime. He ain't going to want that. You want a circus here in New Orleans? Because that's what you would get. I don't think it would be a circus right away, but if a certain guy named Sanders gets drafted and doesn't play right away, somebody's daddy ain't going to be happy. I'm just going to say that. You want that circus here? That's part of whatever you draft, if you draft that. Oh, and Attilio, good morning. John Carter, good morning. Who dat? Chad Gage, good morning. O-line will be our first pick, or will it? I'm going to show you why. If you want, and Chad said, please, no Sanders. Forgot to put that. I'm going to show you why in just a minute. If you want an offensive lineman and you believe what I've been telling you for the last 4 seasons into the 5th season, follow the odds. If you believe that and you want O-line, you might be disappointed. Who dat daddy? Are we talking Pelicans today? A little bit. We got to talk about a little bit. There's only 2 games left in the season. Got to talk about them a little bit. Charles Mangus, good morning. May not be on all the show. Phil, I hope you feel better. I hope we can cheer you up a little bit. Apathy. Loomis, I never get it. I love it. After you and I got to go have lunch someday. You never say good morning. You just jump right into it, baby. You just jump right into whatever you got to say. I love it. Apathy says, Loomis hired the kind of coach everyone wanted. A young offensive mind and coming off a Super Bowl victory is Lanyard. That's true. I don't think, think about the defensive coaches that were available. There's no question that this is the one that maybe not the guy. People wanted Aaron Glenn, but they didn't want Aaron Glenn because he was a defensive-minded coach. This is the kind of coach, I guess kind of. I don't know. We can go back in time. We'll talk about it as we go along. We'll be going to be talking about it for a while. If he has a great season, everybody will be saying they won't give Loomis the credit. If he has a bad season, I guarantee you they'll be giving Loomis the grief. Whether they should or shouldn't, that's a whole different story. Cecil Evans with the Saints schedule, and yes, card quarterback. Saints can win 9 to 10 games. Pick Milroe late, and at worst, you had the new Taysom Hill. Look, I had I put out a short from something that we talked about in the show on Wednesday about Jalen Milroe being a potential Taysom Hill kind of player. It got the most views for a short that we've had on YouTube. Now, our TikTok shorts are different. For some reason, it's weird. Sometimes we'll have TikTok shorts that do fantastic, thousands and thousands and thousands of views, and it'll get like 100 views on YouTube. I don't get it. And then YouTube short, we don't get a ton of views on our YouTube shorts for some reason. This one got over 1,000, and on TikTok it did nothing. I don't get it. But anyway, if you want to go watch it in all of our shorts, and we're trying to do more with them, and we're not just cutting out pieces of the show, although that's what we've been doing lately. We're also talking about different things. the subject of the day. I thought the best short possibility was talking about Jalen Milroe. I'm going to ask Larry about that later this afternoon or this morning, I guess. I think Jalen Milroe, if he's willing to accept that role, would be a phenomenal next Taysom Hill. And I think they might need the next Taysom Hill before any of us hope or want them to. Who dat daddy? I'm trying to learn, my friend. The last word at his house is yes, dear. Well, I mean, mine too, really. A-Town, Mrs. Derry going to get that black skillet for me again. A bit of shiner in my other eye. You know, it's weird. You know what I noticed? Like, ever since this eye, those of you who watch regularly, which is most of you right now, this eye is still not right, is it? It still looks weird. Doesn't feel bad, just still weird. David Taylor, who dat from Aviano Air Base in Italy? We're international now. Dattitude is international. Wow. Welcome, David. Gary Thomas Bradford, what's going on? Running back, wide receiver in the first round, perhaps? I think the odds are all over the place. Again, I'm going to get to him when Larry comes on. He's scheduled to come on at 11:20. That's in 3 minutes, so I better get through these comments. I still got some more to talk about. Brian Esteve, his hope is that the Saints are leaking their interest in Shedeur to help increase the chance to get picked before number 9. I don't think anyone else cares. I know that's your hope. It's kind of my hope in a way too, but that's not going to change whether he goes before the Saints or not. I've talked about this, and I told this to my son yesterday. I think why the Saints are right there, they're at the precipice. They're at that cutoff point. If Shedeur Sanders doesn't go at 9, he likely falls to 21 at best, which is where the Steelers are, or goes even lower than that, maybe into the second round. And Deion Sanders is doing whatever he can to make sure his guy, his son, doesn't fall. Apathy says Matt Moscona will have an epic level meltdown at the Saints draft Milroe. That alone is worth the pick. I'd love to have him on the show. Maybe we'll talk about it. We'll see. All right. Douglas Thornton is here. Hello, brother. It has been a long time. Glad you're here this morning. All right, I got a couple things to talk about this morning before Larry comes on. Very quickly, as I call up the Masters leaderboard, the surprise, there are two major surprises. One, that Justin Rose at age 44 or whatever he is leading this tournament now. Look, it's very rare you get a wire to wire. But he had, at one point, I think he had a 4-stroke lead yesterday, down to 2. He is 8 under through 11 holes today, this morning, and 1 under for round 2. Bryson DeChambeau is right on his butt. He's at 6 under, and I got Bryson. I told you that was my pick of the weekend. He is at 6 under. But 44-year-old Justin Rose ahead of the Masters? Wow. But here's my bigger surprise than that. Yesterday, Freddie Couples, and look, you know, I love old dudes, especially if anybody older than me does anything in sports, I love it. I don't care who it is, what you did it in, what sport it is, I love it. And Freddie Couples is almost a decade older than me. 65-year-old Fred Couples, the second oldest player ever to shoot an under par round in the Masters. Tom Watson, who was also 65 at the time, so he must have been just days or a month or two older or whatever, did it in 2015. Kyle Sherman says that Justin Rose is now 9 under. Google is behind. He hit a 191-yard eagle. Wow. Or you're saying that Couples did that. Freddie Couples did it. Yeah, Freddie Couples did that yesterday. So anyway, kudos, golf clap, thumbs up this morning to Freddie Couples, second oldest player ever at 65 years old to shoot an under par round. Now, we know that's not going to last. So it'll probably be like 5 over after today, but whatever. Yeah, Freddie Couples did it. That's my shout out of the day. My I feel terrible for you of the day moment. Again, Larry coming on in just a minute. The poor Seattle Mariners. Poor Seattle Mariners. 5-8. Okay, that's not why the poor Zach's Seattle Mariners. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you saw this early in the week. I think it was Sunday because I was I don't know why I was watching the Mariners game when this happened. I'm a little verklempt. Me. Yeah, I'm okay. Victor Robles dislocated his shoulder running into a wall on Sunday. And so then, I think it was yesterday, second baseman Ryan Bliss tore biceps on a swing. How do you tear biceps on a swing? Now both are out for multiple months. If you had an M's future, you probably can rip it up. Just saying, that ain't good. And then lastly, before we get to Larry, our national news, on a completely different note, Texas wide receiver Isaiah Bond, top 10 receiver, according to The Athletic, turned himself into police for outstanding sexual warrant, according to Ian Rappaport. It says, quote, I would appreciate the opportunity to defend myself, and prove claims are patently false. Again, by The Athletic, ranked as a potential third round pick. Obviously, I feel terrible if he's not guilty, because if they are patently false, they're going to affect his draft status. They just are. I think that's pretty clear. So that's your news of the day. And again, you got to be, you feel for him if it's an unjust claim. I guess we'll find out soon enough. And you got to feel for those Seattle Mariners. If you're a Seattle Mariners fan, I'll ask Zach Ewing. I can't feel too bad because, look, the last 6 years or so, my Cubs have stunk up the joint. It is what it is. All right. We're not going to stink up the joint here. I'm going to bring in our Friday friend. It's been a little while, Friday friend. In fact, I think this is your first visit to us in this new 5th season. I think the last time you were on, Larry Holder, is when we had you on right before the Super Bowl, and I think I had to say bye-bye early or something. What happened there? I was trying to remember.
Kyle Turley threw me literally off the set.
That's what it was.
Threw me off the set, man. Jeez.
I felt terrible. I remember I felt terrible. You didn't take it that hard, but other people probably would have. I don't know what happened. If I would have sat down and talked to someone for 3 minutes, oh, you're booting me for Kyle Turley? Come on, man.
If you knew my week, I didn't feel bad at all. I was like, good. Man, I've got
you were sick as a dog, right?
Sick, work, nonstop work. It was a long week, and it took me a while to just recover. And I wish it was hungoverness. No. It was exhaustion, way too much. So now look at perfect time. Now we're back, and it's
all right. Good.
I know why you're having me on. You must have been reading what I've been writing lately. So we're going to talk about Masters gnomes and memorabilia and fake messy autographs. That's what we're talking about.
That's exactly what the people want to hear. They want to hear about all that stuff. Friday morning here with Larry Holder on the Dattitude podcast presented by Evangeline Securities. Larry Holder is now the memorabilia, and I still call you NFL expert because I can still consider you an NFL expert, but that's not what you're writing about anymore at The Athletic. You're writing about memorabilia and whatever else.
Collectibles.
That's the word.
You name it. I got a story coming out in a minute about bobbleheads. It what makes the world go round, apparently.
Apparently. That's what they say.
Apparently enough to employ me. So, but no, I don't think I've lost my my NFL expertise hat quite yet.
All right, good. Well, today you got your tennis hat on. Who Dat Daddy says, who dat Larry? So there you go. Today you can be
who dat Daddy? All right, Good Friday.
You can be. That's next week.
A Good Friday.
Oh, okay, I got you. Don't eat meat, you bunch of heathens. Anyway, I don't know how many people are Catholic on the show or even care. All right, the lead question of today, before we get to draft, I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about draft this morning. But the lead question that I have, and when I'm trying to think about it, I'm trying not to do the same thing every show. When you lead up and you do a show 3 times a week, and you're leading up to the draft, and now you talk about for 6 to 8 weeks after the Super Bowl is the draft. It can get old. So trying to think of can these Saints win right now? Forget about what they do in the draft. Are they good enough? Do they have the talent? And when I say win now, let's say win the NFC South. Do they have enough talent with their new coach and a new philosophy and a new change of mindset to win the NFC South right now?
I might surprise you and say yes, just
Yeah, it kind of does
because
surprise
of
me
the
that you say that.
state of the division. Like, I don't trust the state of the division. So that's part of why. Can the Saints win now within the division? Yes. And it's really going to depend on uh, just if you can get Derek Carr back to being the quarterback you thought he could be when you signed him. If some of these pieces on defense can help improve that unit. Of course, what do you do in the draft? I don't dislike bringing back Brandon Cooks. At least I think he's still a viable
I think that's a
NFL
good move.
receiver.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually a fine move. I mean, it gives you a solid group. If they're all healthy, it's a solid group, which is better than what you were dealing with for most of last year. But still, it's really going to depend on. I mean, so many variables. Is Atlanta going to improve with Michael Penix at quarterback? All these other changes, and the Saints are playing. What are they playing? A third place schedule? Is that right?
Yeah.
So that helps.
Fourth place schedule.
Well, there you go. Well,
yeah, they're playing the fourth place schedule, and they actually have. If you go by winning percentage from this past season, which is what most people do, it's not what we do here in this show, but I have not I have not gone through their schedule and done my formula. But if you use last year's numbers and last year's records, the Saints have, once again, the second easiest schedule in the NFL. It'll be the third year they're 28th or lower. 2 years ago, I think they were 31st last year. I think they were 28th, and now they're 31st again. So the 31st toughest schedule in the NFL, which means second easiest, using my Shaw math very quickly to figure that out. So that they have that going in their favor as well.
Hence why you're playing in the NFC South and you actually have a chance to win now. So I think that's part of that equation. And look, sometimes that formula pans out, sometimes it doesn't. But still, like, it's the same story we've seen really for years when you talk about that, because the division's mediocre, and you would think, well, the Saints should be good enough to navigate some of this, and they haven't been, which is why they have a new head coach, and they're really a year away from probably having a new quarterback. So,
I think you're a year off of that. I think
depends on what happens.
You've been begging for. Look, that leads me into I wasn't going to spend too much time talking about Derek Carr because I really don't want to. There are so many things I want to talk to, and we have limited time to talk to you this morning. But there is so much disdain, and I use disdain. It's probably too harsh of a word. Now, when you're talking about fans, disdain is a good word, but I think it's leaked into our colleagues in the media. They are so ready for something else to happen as well. They're tired of quote. It's just been 2 years. People don't realize. It does seem like it's been longer than that, but it's only been 2 years that Derek Carr is here with the contract that he signed. I'm telling you, unless they just want to eat $60 some odd million next year, I think you're going to see another restructure. I think he's here for this year and next year, and then they'll eat whatever's left over. It'll probably be in the neighborhood of 30 something million, but I just don't think they're going to eat 60 something million in 2026. Hence, why I don't think they're going to draft Shedeur Sanders, which we're going to get into in a second. All this is tied together.
It doesn't mean you don't draft a quarterback next year and he starts. And
that I do agree. I think
Derek
next year
Carr becomes Kirk Cousins and he sits. Like
that's a possibility.
That could certainly happen. And I wouldn't. It really comes down to my argument within the Derek Carr discussion has never changed. Derek Carr's ceiling is what it is. You just don't want him. You want him to be closer to the ceiling than to the floor. They're not that far apart. That's the thing, and that's why your record is what it is. And I mean, you're better with him right now. You're better with him
right now. You are, yeah.
And so
right.
you ride with him, but still, he's only going to take you so far. You knew it when you signed it.
No, and I don't disagree with that.
I
definitely think that, look, I've said this. People think that I'm like defending Derek Carr. I'm like this Derek Carr lover, which is the furthest thing from the truth. I'm not Derek Carr lover. I just think he's the best thing for this team right now. He's the bridge to the future. That being said, what makes sense to me, what seems like common sense is the fact that I just don't see this team saying we're going to eat that much money. Just like this is the reason why I thought Derek Carr was coming back this year. It's not that I was trying to will it into existence. I just said, what makes common sense? You're not going to eat that much money and have, with the other dead money they had, they would have had like 90 some odd $1 million in dead cap space. You can't even try to be successful. You're not going to set up a new coach to fail. And going into next year, a lot of that dead money comes off the books for 2026. However, you're still not going to want to eat 60 something million. So I just think that it makes sense that Carr is here this year and next year, barring if the floor falls out of this team, they go 5-12 again, and we have another repeat performance of what happened last year, then maybe they do say, you know what, we don't want to go through the circus again, and I get it. But I just don't see them, and that leads to this question from Alan Levy. I hope they get another player that could come right away and help the Saints. I hope they don't get Shedeur Sanders. I just don't think it makes sense. Not saying they won't do something that makes sense. I just don't think it makes sense to draft a Shedeur Sanders when you need help right now and you put a list of positions in order, quarterback somewhere near 8th or 9th in order of need. Doesn't make sense that you would draft a Shedeur Sanders with the 9th pick of the draft.
The Beast has come out, our annual draft guide, which is
I've looked at it, bro.
As always, and it's
Dane Brugler, right?
Yes, Dane Brugler, our draft expert. It's more than just PDF. It's interactive. It's better than we've ever done, by tenfold. It's amazing. But I always lean on his list, and guess what? NFL GMs and decision makers look at his list, and actually, it helps them in some of their research, and so it's one of the most trusted guides there is, period, on the planet for the NFL draft.
I plugged it on Wednesday's show, and I actually just called it up right now. And we talked about Shedeur Sanders. His rank on Sanders is the number 2 quarterback overall, but he's got him as the 34th ranked player in this draft. So
that's where I was going.
If you want to take the 34th ranked player at number 9, and when you don't even need a quarterback, you want to talk about that, makes zero sense in my opinion.
That's where I was going. But let's look back at what happened last year. I could tell you that Bo Nix and Michael Penix were in the 40s or 50s on our list. And where did Penix go and where did Bo Nix go? And obviously Penix, there was not a perceived immediate need at quarterback for the Falcons. There was definitely a need in Denver. I would say the Broncos got it right with Nix, despite where we had Nix ranked. And the jury's out on whether the Falcons have got it right. We're going to see more going later with that. But they're rolling forward with that. So do we see people taking higher than maybe what we have graded and other people have graded? Yes. I'll just give you another example. Cam Ward's probably going to go number 1, and we've got him 13th on our big board. It's just what it is when it's a quarterback, when you're a desperate, needy team for a quarterback. I don't know if the Saints are a desperate, needy team right now in the immediate for a quarterback. And for me, if it's going to have to take some conviction. You don't go get him because he's there. You go get him if you're absolutely head over heels in love with him, like the Falcons were with Penix and like the Broncos were with Bo Nix. And I don't know if the Saints are there. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But if you and me are talking, I mean, I don't take Shedeur Sanders at 9.
No.
So yeah.
And I stress this on Wednesday. By the way, when Larry says big board, and I'll repeat what I said on Wednesday. That's the order, the ranking order. It's not a mock draft. They don't think that Cam Ward's going to go 13th, and they don't think that Shedeur Sanders is going to go 34th. That's just Dane Brugler's order and ranking of what he has these players in order. So that's not a prediction or anything. How much do you think going into what you said? And I never really thought of this angle before, but obviously Michael Penix not only was the surprise of the draft last year, but he might have been the surprise of the last few drafts. How much do you think that all these people, all these experts making predictions don't want to look like a fool again? And they're kind of like thinking about Penix a little bit because it's almost the same scenario. The only difference is Kirk Cousins was just signed. So that's the big difference, right? Kirk Cousins was just signed. It was clear that Kirk Cousins was going to be the quarterback. The difference is now that Derek Carr is been here for 2 years. They did just redo his contract. He's going to make $50 million this year. He counts $50 million towards the cap anyway. So it wouldn't be as big of a surprise, but how much do you think that factors in when all these quote-unquote media experts are just talking about this and maybe bringing this into life right now?
I don't know what they think. I mean, really, it's some people do mock drafts for shock value. Some people try to do it. They have different motivations for doing it. I mean, we do it to be true to what we
Right.
feel like the NFL and teams are going to do. I mean, that's so. I don't know what motivates other people, but I'll just bring up other drafts in the past where people were thinking Malik Willis was going to go 3 and Matt Corral was going to go
For sure.
3 or something like that, and they fall
That's
to
right.
the 3rd round. And so, you have that aspect every year of
Will Levis.
expectations. Will Levis, the same thing. So it's hard to tell because you have so many different voices now in such a big space. Who do you trust? Not everybody, and really very few people know what every team's thinking. Actually, probably no one on the planet knows what every team's thinking.
Yeah. No.
So it only takes one team to go do it. It's like just like Johnny Manziel. I mean, it only took one team to go get him as he was falling, and so it's certainly something that I don't know if people are manipulating their mock drafts that way, but they also see quarterback needy teams up top. And what do you do? The Giants, what do they have? Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson.
Right.
And Cleveland just brought back Joe Flacco today. It's like, okay, are we rolling with that? And,
that's why I wouldn't be surprised. I still think the Giants are going to they might not take quarterback in the first round. They may or may not take Shedeur Sanders there, but I still think that they're going to take a quarterback early, whether it be the first round or the second round. A couple comments I want to get to here, and we could talk about one or two or whatever you want. And I'm just going to run through a couple of them. Who Dat Daddy? News flash. Derek Carr doesn't want to be there. How in the hell could you possibly know that? How in the hell could anyone know that? I mean, I keep hearing this from who? Social media tells you that because he wasn't here during Super Bowl week? Get out of here. We don't know that he doesn't want to be here. And even if he doesn't want to be here currently, doesn't mean it couldn't change like in a snap. If he comes in here and says, I love Kellen Moore's system, which he very well could, we hope he does, that would change in a heartbeat. Mark Gapsky says he's been reading that Dart is the number 2 overall quarterback. Goes to what Larry was saying. Everybody's rankings are different. Brian Cavett, what else makes common sense? What makes common sense is not drafting a quarterback. Brian, 0. It makes 0.0 sense to draft a quarterback at number 9. 0.0. You can't protect the quarterback. And you have one that costs $50 million. It makes no sense to draft one. Anyway. Okay.
All right. I'll try to address
Go ahead.
some of the stuff. I don't care if Derek Carr wants to be there. He's going to be there because he's not leaving money on the table. So that's easy. I mean,
preach, Larry, preach.
In terms of drafting a quarterback, like, I'm not going to say it makes 0 sense, but you better be damn well sure that he's your future. Like, if you're going to draft him at 9
in this draft,
it is a huge gamble. I will say right now, Jackson Dart is number 49 on our list, and Tyler Show is number 50. So basically, we have them the same.
What? Yeah.
And again, last year in our rankings, Bo Nix was down there. Michael Penix was even lower. So that's it. Like that's the thing. Teams have visions and see what they see. And, our expert, Dane Brugler, he's talking to people all the time. Trust me, it's amazing how much work he puts into this. It's not just, hey, let me just fly by night and do this stuff. I mean, this is like his year-round thing. And so but that's the thing. I mean, I'll just reiterate. I don't say it makes 0 sense, but if
little sense, okay.
Go back to your question right now, and the Saints' philosophy always, they want to try to win now. So doing that does not help you win now, especially when I could go up to the top of our list and see at number 6 is Will Campbell, at number 7 is Armand Membo, and number 8 is Tyler Warren, and number 9 is Shamar Stewart, and number 10 is Mike Green. I think the Saints could use any of those players.
Absolutely,
and they draft
could.
9.
I agree. And I just don't think that we could sit here and talk. Last year was easy because I still think they need an offensive line, but at least this year is different where if they wouldn't have done it last year, I would have just lost my cotton picking mind because there was no question. It wasn't just, I said 1A, 1B, 1C. That was their need. This year, it's not quite as strong. Their offensive line is better than it was last year this time, but it still wasn't good. So I still think that's the direction they should go. However, There are definitely other needs that are at least closer to offensive line. You talk about all those players that they need. Yeah, they could use any of those guys. And that's why I just don't think this team is in a position to draft the best player available. Even if they think Shedeur Sanders is the best player available when they draft, they're just not in a position to do that, in my opinion.
I think this is the ultimate best player available draft for them.
What if it's Shedeur Sanders?
If that's their best player available,
if that's the highest player on their board, okay, I'm not saying, they're going to draft the highest player on their board, whether they do or don't. But if you have a board, Larry Holder, and you're Mickey Loomis, and you get to 9 and the highest player available on your board is Shedeur Sanders, are you taking him?
Yes. Yes.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
This team is not good enough to take best player available. Best player available to me is for a team that's good, or if you're drafting in the top 1 or 2 and you don't have another choice, like the Titans. I mean, the Titans need a quarterback anyway, but Cam Ward. But you go after that. Number 2, Cleveland. I mean, to me, you don't have a choice. I think you take Travis Hunter there because to me he's the best player. That's just my opinion. I think he's the best player in this draft. I don't know where Brugler has Travis Hunter, but to me,
number 1.
He has number 1. I think that's the number 1
and
player
he
in
has
this
him
draft.
listed as cornerback number 1.
Okay, but he can play both.
Obviously, he can
you want to talk about Deion Sanders? To me, that's a possible Deion Sanders kind of player. So if you're just talking about me, those 2 players, I get it why they're going to go 1-2. But after that, I don't know. I mean, it's just an order. And look, let's get into the odds part of this, because I always talk about follow the odds, right? We can listen to media reports all we want. The odds are right way more than they're right than the media is right. However, this year, they're in lockstep right now, Larry Holder, because if you look at them as we show them here on the board, and for those who can't see what I just posted on the board, you're listening after the fact, I'll tell them to you quickly. These are the odds on the position of the first pick the Saints will make this year. Doesn't necessarily, this could be if the Saints trade up, trade down, doesn't matter. The Saints' first pick in this draft. Okay, these are by DraftKings. As of this morning, right now, they have quarterback listed first at plus 200, which means there's a 2-to-1 chance. If you bet on it, a 2-to-1 chance, which is extremely high. I mean, that means extremely high chance. That means 40-something%, which is a lot. Okay, so 2-to-1 chance they pick a quarterback. Then next is cornerback at plus 350, defensive line at plus 450, offensive line and wide receiver both at plus 700, means 7-to-1. They'll take an offensive lineman or a wide receiver. Then linebacker at plus 800, tight end at plus 850, running back at plus 1,100, which might be a good value because if Ashton Genty slips past the Raiders, I don't see the Saints letting him. That's one guy that I wouldn't let slip past.
By the way,
that's an interesting
Genty
pick.
is number 3 on our big board.
Yeah, I don't think
Carter is 2, Genty is 3.
I think that's probably how I would have them listed in my order as well. I think that's a fine order there, Mr. Holder. But what do you think of these odds? Do you agree that does someone know something, or is it the usual Mickey Loomis blowing out his smoke screen so no one knows anything?
At this point, I think it's too early to think, all right, Vegas knows something. I do, but they are listening to somebody who they trust, and it's going that way. And again, if it would be that pick, we have seen precedent literally last year of perceived value, and teams valuing quarterbacks higher than what they have. And
right.
The examples I've already named, I mean, that would be the blueprint. That Bo Nix people didn't value him as high. Broncos had a conviction. Obviously, we know who's coaching over there, and he did it. Guess what? Kellen Moore, quarterbacks. He certainly knows the importance of that. He's a former quarterback. He's coached plenty of good ones at this point. He knows the value of it.
There are quarterbacks later that are going to be available later in this draft that I think would just make more sense than the Saints at number 9 to pick. If you want to pick a quarterback, fine. I'm not totally against picking a quarterback. I don't think you should, but whatever. If you really want to do that now, then fine. But I think in the 3rd round you can get a quarterback. I still wouldn't like it in the 2nd round, but at least be better than doing it at number 9. It just makes no sense. But to show you how the odds can sometimes get it wrong. By the way, real quick. Brian, I'm sorry I read your comment wrong. Where is it? He said, He said what makes common sense is not drafting a quarterback. So I read his comment wrong. Sorry about that. He does not want a quarterback there. But I was going through and I couldn't find all the odds on Atlanta and there was no number on what the odds were for them to draft a quarterback last year at number 8. However, I did find their the top four odds. Defensive line or edge rusher was minus 215, which meant that it was about a 75 to 80% chance they were going to draft a defensive line or an edge rusher. After that was cornerback at basically 2-1. Wide receiver was 8-1. And offensive line was 13-1. Quarterback was nowhere in the list. So if you go back to last year, shows you sometimes the odds makers don't know what they're talking about because they didn't even have quarterback on the Falcons' radar. And why should they? They had just spent $200 million on Kirk Cousins.
Exactly. So you don't know what teams are really going to do or what they're thinking. And you think back with the Vikings, you knew J.J. McCarthy could have been in their wheelhouse. And so that one made sense. And then, the other quarterback picks, those made sense. And so we saw the wild cards there. The Broncos pick made sense, but everyone thought it was a reach. And now I think people will see, hey, okay, that was a good move. And so
can you say it was a good move after 1 year?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe I'm just, and I have a hard time because I know I let my biases get into things sometimes, get into my opinion sometimes. And I was definitely anti Bo Nix going to the draft last year. So obviously he came in and played better in his rookie season than I ever gave him a chance to. And he was very accurate. So he carried his accuracy on from college into the pros, at least for his rookie year. I just don't know, especially when you're talking about quarterback, if you, again, stating that there's possible bias into this comment, I just don't know if you could tell after 1 year whether that player was lived up to the expectations or not. I mean, look at Bryce Young. He's starting to prove that, everybody said he stunk. What a terrible first pick. And some people are saying now that maybe it was even better than CJ Stroud after year number 2. I don't know.
Wasn't better than CJ Stroud.
But, I agree with you. I'm just saying that he's played so much better in year 2.
I mean, the question is, do I think the pick was worth it? Yes, I do think the pick was worth it. But I mean, can we guarantee long-term success for the next 10 years? No, after last year, no. But does the pick make sense? Yes. So I think there's a difference there. And it's and you're talking about I'll spin it to this. You're talking about quarterbacks in say rounds 2 or 3. So let me throw this out there at you. Would you rather the Saints take Jalen Milroe or Quinn Ewers in round 2 or 3 as opposed to reaching on somebody?
I do not want Quinn Ewers under any circumstance. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback. I don't
trust him either, by the way.
I think he went straight down after what I saw last year. So he's out. I said this on Wednesday's show. I touched on it in the early part of this morning. I'm very intrigued by Jalen Milroe because I don't necessarily think he's a quarterback, although he could be. I think he's more of a Taysom Hill type. I think he could be better than Taysom Hill at what Taysom Hill does than even Taysom Hill. But he'd have to be willing to do that. I think Jalen Milroe is a phenomenal athlete, and I give him serious potential in the NFL. I just don't know if it's that quarterback. So in answer to your question, I would much rather draft a Milroe in the 3rd round if he's there than draft Shedeur Sanders in the 1st round. That's my opinion.
Gosh, I just thought of this. I would much rather draft say Milroe, and I liken him to Anthony Richardson. Like, see that how much that of a reach is? And Milroe, man, look, he's 73. I would say they're similar, and I would trust.
I don't disagree with that at all.
I would trust Milroe coming out of
more
college
than Anthony Richardson
right now than I would Anthony Richardson back then. Like, so I think he could be a steal. Like,
here's two different viewpoints. It's just because it goes to show how different everyone thinks. Hakeem Batiste, welcome, Hakeem. I'm glad you're here. Milroe is a better prospect than Taysom Hill was. Definitely agree there. And who that daddy right behind him says, no more gadget players, please. I think gadget players have their place. And Walt Crawford says this is a year the Saints should trade back in the 1st round. I 100% agree with that. I don't think the Saints have it in them to do that, but I would love to see them trade down.
Well, I could tell you just from some of our reporting, I know our Diana Rossini's talking about there's not a lot of chatter right now to move up. Like teams.
That too.
And actually, I think it was a podcast with Diana and Dane, and they were talking about teams are not eager to move up because it's just not some star powered draft. You have a lot of solid players that maybe could come in and start, but there's not a ton of like star power. I mean, you have these couple of names, but it doesn't feel like some like really top heavy draft that people are clamoring to go move up to get into.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, Chad Gage says, if not an offensive lineman, please tight end and wide receiver. We'll get a solid RB later. Where is Tyler Warren on Brugel's list? I have it up right now.
He's
eighth overall.
And
Okay.
Colston Loveland from Michigan is 11th. So there are two bona fide tight ends and then Mason Taylor is our tight end 3. He's at number 33.
Okay. Cornerbacks, talking about Travis Hunter. Will Johnson is there at 18 overall rank. Defensive tackles, you don't see a lot of defensive tackles go in the top 10, but he has Mason Graham of Michigan at number 4. So that's an interesting possibility.
If he fell to 9, the Saints better run to the podium for him. I'm sorry. Yeah. Like that would be a fall. Like I don't think Mason Graham.
You don't think he's going to make it that far?
No. But they run to go get him. I would think that would be a no-brainer.
Maybe if he's there. Maybe if he's there at 6, you do trade him. I find this draft intriguing because I just really don't think anyone, and I mean anyone, I don't think anyone knows anything about what the Saints. You couldn't possibly read into the mind of Kellen Moore, in my opinion. It's easy to say they're going to go out and get an offensive player. And the reason why I do think they're going to go get an offensive player is what I said before. I think they've been shoring up the defense as best they can in free agency. And the way they've formed everything, it shows that's where their priority was. But that being said, I think you go offense in this draft. I just don't think it's quarterback. So that would lend to a Tyler Warren, or potentially if Will Campbell or Membu's there at 9, maybe it is one of those guys. Maybe it is Tedero McMillan, the wide receiver, who's further down the draft list. If Genty's there, I think it's a no-brainer. You kind of have to, but I just think it's so tough. This might be the toughest. It's always tough. Not last year was easy because you knew they can go out and get a tackle, but it's almost always tough to predict what the Saints are going to do in the first round.
I at least like that they have options.
I
mean, every year I gauge, I trust Dane, and I like to see where the board landed. And like last year, Fuaga was right there where they needed him to be. So it made it like a seamless, no problem pick. I mean, they got players, we mentioned Campbell, Membu, Warren, Stewart, Green, Loveland. I mean, even McMillan, the wide receiver, we have him at 12. I don't know if people would be super upset if they took him there. I mean, so like a lot of it makes sense. A lot of it adds up to me. So it's just, I think people, it will be very polarizing if they go against what we, like a list that like we have, and they go quarterback. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, that would be the polarizing pick, and it would certainly bring some strong opinions one way or the other.
We got about 6 minutes left with Larry here this morning. If you want to comment and ask Larry a question, now's your time to get it in. The last question I'm going to ask you, I'll give you a heads up. I'll make you make a prediction. We like to have predictions on what the Saints going to do on game day. I'll make you make a prediction on what the Saints going to do. I just said it's almost impossible to tell, but I'm still going to make you make a prediction. That being said, before any of that, I know next week we're going to spend at least one show on our biggest surprise. Either next week, or we might wait until the week of the draft to do it. But what do you think potential biggest surprises? Maybe not. It could be a player, or it could be a team trading up, or a team trading. What do you have anything in mind on what a potential surprise moment? What's the Michael Penix moment in this draft?
I think it'll be Jackson Dart. I think someone's gonna take him higher than where we have him, like first round higher, because again, you got quarterback needy teams. Think of Pittsburgh. I mean, they've had to do it. What do they?
He could start right away there.
Yeah, and who knows if Aaron Rodgers goes there or not? But still, you still need somebody, and I think that they could certainly be one to watch for sure with Dart. And maybe it's twofold. It would be maybe Dart goes higher than we think, and then Sanders falls. Like that's what that's the most intriguing thing for me, especially not covering it every day. I think that is a polarizing thing because of where they stand in big boards like we have, and who's going to like perceivingly reach, and or vice versa, who falls, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think Dart goes top. Let's say top 25. I'll say top 25.
There are lots of comments in the queue. I'm going to probably get to most of these comments after Larry's gone. It'll be right where we go into after Larry leaves us. I want to say this about, I think I haven't made my list yet, but I'm going to have a top 10 list of surprises or draft day moments or first round moments. And I'm telling you right now, I think Jackson Dart's going to go before Shedeur Sanders. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to slip down this list, and I'm going to make a crazy prediction, and I'll say it out loud. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to go in the second round. I think that's going to be every year we have one of those green room moments where the camera's on somebody and he keeps sliding, and we remember Randy Moss from 20-something years ago, or it was a quarter century ago now, whatever it was. And we had Will Levis a couple years ago, and every year it just seems like some quarterback or some high-profile player is supposed to go. Lamar Jackson, 2018 or whatever it was. Some player is supposed to go high, and whether he ends up being a great player in the NFL, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I'm predicting I think Shedeur Sanders is going to fall, and I think he's going to fall hard. And Deion Sanders is seeing this potentially happen, which is why he's selling him so hard to the Saints, because he knows if he doesn't go at 9, then he falls to at least 21 in the Steelers. And if the Steelers don't take him too, then maybe no one else takes him in the round 2.
That wouldn't be a total stunner. He's a polarizing player. And I mean, you look at where he ranks now and where he would have ranked a year ago. And, he was basically a top 50 guy, like a year ago. So he's at least moved up, but it's just, he's going to be what everybody's focusing in on. I mean, he's the name, and it comes with all of that. And so
after Cam Ward goes, and after if Travis Hunter goes at 2, you're going to see camera on Shedeur Sanders with the Giants on the board from 3 until he goes. Every maybe not every pick, because there are some teams that obviously aren't going to draft a quarterback, but I would say almost every pick after pick number 2, the camera's going to be on Shedeur Sanders.
Oh, it'll be on Shedeur Sanders at 2 because Cleveland needs a quarterback. I mean,
well, that's true. So they're not going to take Shedeur Sanders.
I wouldn't imagine so, but you never know. So it's this is certainly going to be the storyline of the draft, where he goes, because we know where Cam Ward's going to go. The storyline of the draft is going to be where he goes. I mean, I just don't think, other than Cam Ward, I don't know that there's any quarterback on this list that's even better than, let's say, Michael Penix, who was like the 6th best quarterback in last year's 5th or 6th best quarterback ranked. Not saying that's where it'll end up, but ranking wise, he was the 5th or 6th best quarterback in last year's draft. And this is just not a quarterback draft. And it doesn't, Oh, I'd feel way better about Michael Penix in this draft than I would anyone outside of Cam Ward. Like that, I don't think that's, to me, a question. That I would take Penix easily if he were in this draft class. He would be 100% without, to me, a no-brainer.
Oh, I would feel completely different about the Saints drafting a quarterback at 9 if Michael Penix was in this draft and projected to go that far. I would. Because I do think Michael Penix is going to be a long-time start in the NFL. So, yeah. I mean, if this were last year and the Saints were in exactly the same place, even though they had that's a different story. But, I mean, there's just so iffiness when it comes to Shedeur Sanders. Okay. I told you I would ask the last question, what I was going to ask for that last question. I'm going to ask it now. Last question for Larry Holder here on this Friday morning. Prediction for what the Saints can do. You can't skate the question either. I don't care if it comes true or not. It's probably not. Who cares? Give me an answer. What are the Saints going to do? Yeah.
Tyler Warren.
Okay.
I think he's an offensive piece that you could be a long-term guy with. I mean, he's super productive. And here's the thing. If Campbell or Membu fell to them, I'd say go for it. But I think that the Saints are starving for a weapon.
Yeah.
And if that one's there, he would be a guy I would take. I would take him, like we have it ranked. I would take him over Stewart. I would take him over Green. Edge rusher's not a gigantic need.
I agree. It's not really a need at all right now.
Right. So I would make you tell me, go make a pick now. I'm going to go Tyler Warren.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, I just like, no. And then maybe. And I'm starting to open myself up to that a little bit. Maybe it's because I see that they are probably not going to get an offensive lineman there. Maybe that's why I'm opening myself up to the possibility of Tyler Warren. But I got to be honest, if they made that pick there, I don't think it would be a terrible one. As you're talking about, he's high up, not just on the athletics beast board. He's high up there, period. So I don't think it would be a terrible pick. So
yeah,
we'll
just think of him like Brock Bowers. I mean, you'd
he's
be
not
thrilled
Brock
if you had
Bowers,
him. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like that's.
But yes,
similar mindset. You could play him right away. He could.
Yeah, he would start right away.
Weapon. Yes.
It just would. Same thing. And I'm trying to use common sense and logic here too much. I understand that, but you just gave Juwan Johnson a 3-year, $30 million deal, which I guess in the grand scheme of things isn't a blank ton of money these days, but it's still a lot. And so you spend $30 million on a tight end, and you're going to go draft one with the 9th pick of the draft. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you do.
You could have Juwan Johnson for 1 year, really.
That's true.
And then
right.
You have Warren for 5.
And
longer, because if he's good, you keep him. So
right.
There you go.
Well, we will have you on after the draft and talk about it maybe in May at some point. Hope your tennis game goes well. Enjoy the warmer weather coming up, and we will talk to you soon, Mr. Holder.
You got it. All right, you sure? No more Masters gnomes. You don't want to hear about the latest bobbleheads. You don't want to hear the latest on.
What are Masters gnomes
on rookie cards, or like the who's the hottest baseball card right now? You don't want to hear about that?
I mean, if you want, we'll have. I don't care. I'll dedicate an entire show to this crap. I mean, I know people are into it. I'm not just saying. Look, I'm not joking. I'm going to say this, and I mean this in all sincerity. The Athletic would not put someone in a position to write solely about cards and memorabilia and collectibles if there weren't a following of cards and memorabilia and collectibles. So I'll just say that. Just because I'm not into it doesn't mean there aren't a lot of people out there that are. I just don't know if it's my audience or not. But sure, if you want to talk about it, I'll have a whole show on it.
The thing is, it draws in eyeballs who normally aren't into it, but read and say, "Oh, this is an interesting story." And those are the stories I go after. I'm not like nitty-gritty price guiding all day and night. It's the interesting stories that are out there, and there's so many.
I'm going to tell you before I let you go. I'm going to tell you why I'm jealous of your job right now. You know what I miss more? Don't get me wrong. I love my job. I am thankful to the people at the Times-Picayune and the Advocate, NOLA.com, for letting me do what I do on a weekly basis. But you know what I miss more than anything? Writing stories. I haven't written a real story, and I don't even know how long. And I miss it. They don't want me to. I mean, maybe that's saying something. They don't want me to write anymore. They just want me to talk.
It's but your sultry pipes, my friend. They just love it.
That's right. It's knowing how to piss the right people off, I guess, and not piss the wrong people off. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
You could piss everybody off. So what?
That's true. There have been days when I have pissed everybody off. That's true. All right. Well, hopefully I don't piss you off, and then we'll be able to see you soon.
As long as we make our annual 4 trades a year in NL,
we got to work on that.
We'll be good. I'm almost about to just blow the whole thing up.
It's April 11th. We haven't made a trade yet. We got to work on that. Talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, buddy. Good seeing you.
Larry Holder, everybody. Always fun. I mean, maybe we will have an entire show on collectibles. Would you watch it? I mean, if you wouldn't, someone would. All right, we got a lot of comments in the queue that I want to get back to because I'm not done with Saints. And this show, I told you on Wednesday, would be 85, 90% Saints, and it is. The last word is going to be on Pelicans, and then we also have man versus machine. Spoiler alert, the pick of the day involves New Orleans Pelicans. Not going to give it away just yet. Before we finish up here with the Saints, we told you earlier we're letting you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. After their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process from among established private equity funds from around the world. and they will maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform, and there are very few companies like them in this area. I dare you to go find others with more dedication and success than they have. You won't find it. I dare you to go look it up. They are fully licensed and ready to serve you, so get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important, and that is the rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, we missed some comments. Ever since Who Dat Daddy said no more gadget players, what else we got in here? Y'all talking about the rat. We're not. Why does every show have? Why do we have to bring up the rat on every show? We got and there's no middle ground. I haven't found a single person who's got middle ground on the rat. You either love the rat or you hate the rat. What's up with that? Come on, man. I gotta find a picture of me and the rat dapping it up. Let's see. Hakeem says we're definitely gonna need the next 2 drafts to get this roster enough talent to start competing annually. I agree and not agree all at the same time. When we ask, can the Saints win now? I think they can. Part of it is because of what Larry said, okay? Let's get real. Okay, this division sucks. Okay? I know that Tampa Bay has been better than we've expected, and we have not given Tampa Bay their due. And they won 4 division titles in a row and blah, blah, blah. And Baker Mayfield has been quite a fun and has been great and whatever. Atlanta has done what Atlanta does, and Raheem Morris to me is the second coming of Dennis Allen, and he's just not a good head coach. Carolina's on the way up, but we thought they were going to be on the way up last year. I've said, I don't know how many times I've said that Carolina is going to be on the way up. I always like to take the over on Carolina for some reason, and they always disappoint. So why not the Saints? You can't judge what this team is based off of just last year. Okay? You had a team that was as banged up as any Saints team except for maybe 2021 and Sean Payton's last season here that Sean Payton just did was a miracle worker with is anyone. That team that we saw last year just couldn't avoid the injuries. It goes to show what this team is without Derek Carr. They're absolutely garbage. Without Derek Carr, without Eric McCoy for most of the year, they just couldn't win. So if you're comparing what this team is now to the team you saw at the end of last year, you're just not using reality. You're not using common sense. You're not thinking about where this team was logistically. I'm not saying they're the team that went out there and beat the rails off the Panthers and Cowboys in weeks 1 and 2. I'm not saying they're that good. But I think if you go look, they're closer to that team than the one we saw at the end of last year. Has nothing to do with Rattler, by the way. But look who was on the field at the end of last year. Look who was on the field at the beginning of last year. Which team do you think this current Saints team is closer to? Is it the one that played in weeks 1 and 2 or the ones that played in week 15 through 18? I think the answer to that is easy. That's why I think this team can win now. Now, I think they do need to have a good draft. I mean, but it also just look, I'm not trying to throw shade on Shedeur Sanders. He could prove me wrong, easily prove me wrong. But let him prove me wrong with Giants or the Steelers or the Browns or whatever, because this team that currently exists in New Orleans, what's the difference between this team and the Giants? Well, lots of things. But one thing is they don't have $50 million this year and $65 million in 2026 invested in a quarterback. This team does. And I don't care if you don't like Derek Carr or not. We're going to get to that in a minute because there are plenty of people, obviously, who don't like Derek Carr. It doesn't make sense. Just because they got themselves into this hole doesn't mean that Derek Carr can't lead this team to victory. Is Derek Carr going to lead this team to the Super Bowl? I would be shocked. I would be floored if Derek Carr ever leads the New Orleans Saints anywhere close to a Super Bowl. That doesn't mean that we can't have a team that's enjoyable and be a team that's a 9 or 10 win team that can't go to the playoffs, that can't win the NFC South, go to the playoffs, and then who knows what's going to happen. One game against one team, No way, shape, or form am I comparing Derek Carr to Jaden Daniels, but how many people gave the Commanders a chance against the Lions last year? Hardly anyone. Yeah, they had Jaden Daniels. They sure did. Jaden Daniels I said this before last year's draft. Jaden Daniels was going to be that player. I always thought he was going to be that player, and he's still got a long way to go to be that player. He's only played 1 year. Derek Carr is not that player. However, once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. Ryan Ashe says, stop it with the tight end at 9. None of these guys are Brock Bowers. Well, there's only one guy, first off. It's not these guys. It's Tyler Warren. I mean, nobody's seriously talking about taking Colston Loveland with that. Now they're going to take Colston Loveland. I don't think anyone really means take Colston Loveland. That's not going to happen. But if Tyler Warren is there at 9, it's going to be part of the discussion. We go back to the odds. What do the odds say? Tight end plus 850. Odds makers don't think they're going to take a tight end. Again, the odds makers didn't think that the Falcons were going to take Michael Penix. No one did. What's going to be the surprise of this draft? I don't know. Let's see. Hakeem, more hate. More hate for Derek Carr. I wish we could have traded our starting quarterback to. You won't even say his name. I wish we could have traded our starting quarterback to Pittsburgh for a 3rd-round pick. You know how silly that would be, Hakeem? You would have to. People don't understand. You just talk about. People don't understand how. And I'm being totally serious. I don't mean you, Hakeem. I mean just the general NFL fan. How trades work. When you make a trade, more times than not, way more times than not, whoever's trading a player is very likely to have to eat that player's salary, a large chunk of it. You're not going to trade a starting quarterback, a $50 million quarterback, to a team that really needs a quarterback for a 3rd-round pick, and then you're going to eat his salary while the team that really needs a quarterback gets one basically for free? Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It isn't true. Brian says, newsflash, Sanders is still that top 50 guy because Travis Hunter won't be there to help him out. And jury's out. Charles says 7-10 next year, following you 10-7. Can't make those predictions yet. It's too early. I think you need to see what happens in the draft to make a record prediction. You could say whether you think the Saints have a chance, which all we're asking right now, we're not asking you for a record. We're asking you if you think the Saints have a chance to be good next year, even if they don't have a great draft. I say they have a chance, but I'll give you a record prediction later. Earl's pick said he would absolutely watch a show on collectibles and memorabilia. Maybe we'll have one. Mark Gapsky says, no meat today, shrimp burrito. Not that this has anything to do with the Saints. We're all over the place now. No meat today, shrimp burrito for lunch, cheese pizza for dinner. I have no idea what you know what? I'm going to the Pels game tonight. That's right. I'm taking my girls to the Pels game. Shout out to my friend who's in Augusta. He's definitely not watching right now. He's on his way to Augusta, actually, but I know he's not watching right now. Barry Barnes' father has very good friend of mine who was the king of Endymion a couple years ago. Has been trying to give me tickets for like 2 months. And I promised, more than that, actually, because I promised 9-year-old Lucy, she loves going to the Pelicans games. We were going to go. I was going to try to go to like 3 or 4, and it never happened. We haven't gone all year. I knew my time was cutting short. He's been trying to give me tickets for months. Finally found the date that I can go. It's tonight. There's only 2 games left. So me and the girls are going to see the Pelicans and the Heat tonight. Mark also says, wait to draft a quarterback in 2026. That just makes more sense to me. Again, if you draft a Milroe, not a Milroe, if you draft Jalen Milroe in the 3rd round, if he's available there, you're not necessarily drafting a quarterback. You're drafting intrigue. You're drafting athlete. I think that absolutely worth a possibility there. And I know there are a couple people, and I'm not getting into the whole Rattler thing. Why would you draft a quarterback if you already have Rattler? Some people are being facetious. Some people aren't. No one in their right mind. Okay, I know there are still some Rat lovers out there who are holding on to hope. They just want to be right more than they really think it's a possibility. No one in their right mind thinks that Spencer Rattler is going to be a logistical starting quarterback in the NFL. However, I've said this before. I think Spencer Rattler at this point should be your backup quarterback going into next year. I would rather see Spencer Rattler be the backup quarterback to this team than Shedeur Sanders be the backup quarterback for this team, because it means you use your 9th pick of the draft. It doesn't make sense. So you go get Jalen Milroe, who could be on this roster all year long as the 3rd quarterback per se. And at the same time, he gets playing time because he can be the Taysom Hill, right? You're not going to line him up at running back like you lined up Taysom Hill at fullback. I mean, I don't think you're going to do that, at least not right now. But you could line him up at tight end. You could line him up in a slot. I just think that that actually makes sense. And as I talk about it more and more, and as I hear from other more and more, just saying. Gary says we need help on the defense. Too old. I don't disagree with you. I do think they need help on the defense, but I just think that this defensive draft, there's way more on defense in this draft. It's deeper. You can get defensive later. You can get defense later, especially on the defensive line. We've had a number of people on this show, and Mike Detillier and other people that will tell you, Mike Detillier especially, on his draft board, he said of the top 75, 24 defensive linemen. I believe that's the number he gave us. Which means you can get a defensive lineman later. You can get a defensive lineman 2nd round, you can get a defensive lineman in 3rd round. Chad Gage says, if Trent Dilfer can win a Super Bowl, Carr can. Just need to build around him. I'll tell you this. You can hate Derek Carr all you want, but he's at least at the bare minimum as good as Trent Dilfer. The difference is there ain't no Ray Lewis on this team. No. The 2000 Ravens, this ain't. Definitely not the 2000 Ravens. That is not what this defense is. Who Dat Daddy says, I'm a glutton for punishment going to a Pelts game. My girls love it. I'm telling you, they love it. They really do. So if anybody's at the Pelts game, come look at me. I don't remember what section I'm in. 111, I think. Hold on. I don't care. I'll tell you. Live TV, Jim Derry. Live TV again. You doing this again? Would I do this on a radio show? I don't know. Maybe I would. By the way, speaking of radio shows, I'm doing Eric Asher show on Monday. I'm not, I usually go on. I'm actually guest hosting the show. Let's see. Where are my tickets? Section 115. So if you're at the Pels game, you and 3 other people, if one of you are at the game, you can come look for me in 115. Let's see. Charles Broom says, cannot judge the Saints team until we see the draft, and also we find out how effective the new coaching staff is. Yeah. I mean, you can judge. You can't judge. You're right. You can't judge them, but you can make predictions on them. You have to. I mean, because we're not going to know how good this coaching staff is until we see them, right? Got to make a prediction before then. Earl says that Carr is better than Nick Foles, too. I don't know about that. That's close. Maybe. Ryan says, only shot to go 10-7 is to hit as hard as we did in the 2017 draft. That here is our resident hater. We have some haters here on the show. He doesn't show his head very often, but you want to talk about haters, that there are people that hate, and then there's Troy Thibodeau, who is just a hater. But we'll show him love this morning. The division sucks, and the Saints finished in last place last year. Carr again, he's comparing the 5-12 Saints who had injuries all year to the Saints, which we already talked about. He doesn't. Troy, I know you don't need common sense. It's okay. Carr sucks. Injuries are part of the game. All teams have them. You want to compare the injuries the Saints had to other teams? Nah, we don't want to do that. That makes too much sense. That makes too much sense. You don't want to compare injuries of one team to another. Nah. You just want to go out and blanketly say a team sucks. Whatever. Mark, do I usually attend Saints minicamp? Not usually. I do sometimes. But lately, when I've been doing the show, the way that our schedule works, it doesn't always work out for me to go out there. However, I will say this. With camp being back in Metairie this year, I probably will go to camp some this year. We'll see. All right. We're going to wrap up this show with Saints today. However, I have to get to my other segments. And if you haven't been here in a while or you don't watch every show, whatever it is, we have a couple of new segments. One we just started Wednesday, and this next one we started about 3 weeks ago, and we just have fun with it, okay? This is just a fun segment. We're not asking you to actually go out and bet. But it's man versus the machine. And in man versus the machine, the way that it works is Gabe's not here today. Gabe is usually man. The machine is always the machine. The machine is AI. We ask either Grok or ChatGPT, whatever one we feel gives us a more realistic answer. Sometimes I always ask both of them, but sometimes one of them, more times than not, one of them doesn't make any sense. Like they'll have players that are hurt right now, whatever. So whatever answer makes the most sense is the one that I pick to be the machine. And so you'll see our records there in the bottom right. We reset the records because we changed the way we did it a week ago. We are now letting man make the pick, and then machine tells us whether it agrees with us or not. The machine is 1-1. Man is 0-2. That does not count Wednesday's pick, which is a master's pick, and we won't know the answer until Monday. But today's pick involves our local New Orleans Pelicans in their penultimate game of the season. They also play Sunday, but tonight I'll be there. I said, let's just make fun with it. Pelicans, our pick of the day, my pick, my first jaunt as man, at least in the man versus the machine segment, is the Pelicans plus 14.5 over the Heat. Too many points. I realize the Pelicans are banged up and hurt. In fact, Rod Walker said they only had 8 players playing in their last game a couple days ago. I don't care. I'm going Pels here. They're going to support the home crowd. The Heat, to me, they're the 10 seed right now in the East. They're pretty much locked into that 10 seed. They're going to be in the play-in game. They're going to be on the road. So, therefore, hence my position of taking the Pelicans plus 14.5 points over the Miami Heat. I think the Pels will play well tonight. I'm not going all the way out right to say they're going to win the game, but that's what I'm going to say. What does the machine say? The machine says, covering such a large spread on the road isn't always easy, especially if Miami takes its foot off the gas late. Some things to consider, it says. Motivation. The Heat are likely locked in their playoff position, so they may not go all out. I think someone just said that. Who was that? Who said that? Pelicans' effort. Even bad teams can cover big spreads, especially at home. Like that. Pace of play. If this turns into a slow, low-scoring game, 14.5 points becomes a lot tougher to cover. Well, what is your answer, machine? My answer is, if I had to lean one way, I'd probably take the Pelicans plus 14.5 and hope they keep it somewhat competitive, even if they lose outright. There you have it. Man versus machine today. It's man and machine. We're both on the same side. We both take Pelicans plus 14.5 over the Heat. Last chance for you to get any comments in. Troy Thibodeau is you still here? I mean, I don't like calling people out. Sometimes I do. If you just keep coming back, to be that guy, probably going to come back at you, you know? Just going to show you what I think. See, at least, who that daddy can be a hater and at least be, you know, a sensical hater. Who that daddy says it's not going to happen is still tanking. Okay. Maybe. Look, I'm not going to sit there and go, I'm not going to give you any, I'm not going all out for the Saints. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think they're going to win the division. I'm saying they can win the division. My official predictions don't come until August. We'll see what happens. Again, one last look at these odds before we move on again. Odds makers think it's going to be a quarterback. If not, cornerback, plus 350. Defensive lineman, plus 450. You don't get to offensive lineman or wide receiver plus 700. Is there value on a tight end? Do we think they're going to take Tyler Warren plus 850? Might be worth a couple bucks. And the only way they take running back is if Genty falls past the Raiders. So there you go. That's my opinion. Who that daddy's talking about the Pels. I'm just sad about the Pels. That leads me to the last word. Today's last word is on Willie Green. My good friend Fletcher Mackel had a report either yesterday or the day before. Nick Braden sent it to me. And Fletcher says that his sources say, so this, take it for what it's worth. This is word of mouth through word of mouth. Fletcher Mackel says his sources say that Willie Green is coming back to the Pelicans. How do you feel about it? I'll tell you, this is how I feel. When you read through the stories of what the Pelicans have been through this year, and I know it's bad. I know it's easy to say, you know what? The Pelicans stink. They need a change. I get it. But just go through Rod Walker's story from yesterday. And I'm going to read the beginning of it. I'm going to quote. The New Orleans Pelicans had to deal with Giannis this time, so it wasn't nearly as close. Pelicans lost their final road game of the season Thursday night, falling to Giannis and the Bucks 136-111 in Milwaukee. Willie said, quote, there are a lot of positives to take from this game. We threw a really good shot at them. We still have more in the tank, not our best, but a really good shot. Blah, 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 blah. Getting to this point of who the Pelicans played with at a record of 21-59. They played the game with just 8 players after Jose Alvarado, right calf soreness, Bruce Brown, right knee soreness, and rookie Yves Missi, left ankle soreness, were all ruled out. That left the Pels with Quinones, Brooks, Kane, Carlo, Matkovic, Alfred Payton, Antonio Reeves, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, and newcomer Kyler Kelly. Who in the hell are those guys? That's what Willie Green's dealing with. That's even worse than what Rizzy had to deal with at the end of last year with the Saints. Way worse. Who Dat Daddy says, if Willie Green is coming back as head coach, they won't sell 10 tickets. I disagree. I think it's the right move to bring him back, and this is why. The difference between him and a Dennis Allen, let's say, is that Willie Green is a young coach who showed a ton of promise in that first year. Yes, the Pelicans took a step back in his second year, and this year was just a complete and utter disaster from day one when the injury started in game number 1 and they got worse as the season went along. He's still trying to figure out how to use Zion, how to get Zion in a game to play more than, 3 or 4 or 5 games in a row. Well, that's not going to happen. Let's just say 2 or 3 games in a row. Can this team be competitive as soon as next year? I don't see any reason why they can't be at least as good as they were last year. Willie Green is getting no help from this training staff. We've talked about it before. You can say whatever you want. Now, again, this is a show. This is a whole show at some point in the summer on what's going on with this training staff, the one that takes care of both the Saints and the Pelicans. Not blaming it all on them. I am blaming it partly on attitude. I'm blaming it part on David Griffin. They all have a hand on this. But when you got a young coach to me that showed promise like Willie Green has, I think it's worth bringing him back and seeing one more year of what he can do. The Pelicans are in a position to where, is this the lowest of lows? I think this is the bottom. I think they've hit rock bottom. I don't think it's Willie Green. I don't think it's all Willie Green's fault, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I don't know that there's a coach in NBA history that would have been as successful with this group. Obviously a completely different situation, but I think about, someone who's meant a lot in my life and who helped me as a young reporter growing up, and Tim Floyd, and what Tim Floyd went through in his time with both the Bulls and the Hornets before they were the Pelicans. He never had a real chance, neither in Chicago nor in New Orleans in the NBA, in my opinion. And I'm always for giving a coach a chance. And yes, Willie Green's been here for 3 years. And I'd rather look at the Willie Green from 3 seasons ago or 2 seasons, whatever it is, his first season. I'd rather look at that Willie Green than the Willie Green that we saw from this year. Was I disappointed at the end of last year? Of course I was. The Pelicans should have been better than a 9 seed, considering that they had healthy players for much of the season. So much was expected going into this year. One more year. Give them one more year. As who that's Daddy says, David Griffin has been a lot of blame in this also, so let's be honest. Are you going to fire David Griffin? It's not going to happen. Last word is what we think doesn't really matter because, again, Gail Benson organization, they're all loyal to a fault. They're going to, as Fletcher said in his report, the default is going to be you hold on to your coach and you only fire him if you absolutely have to. So logic tells us that they're not going to fire Willie Green anyway. But I honestly believe that he deserves one more chance. If there's another season like this, regardless of injuries, one thing Troy Thibodeau is right about that he said earlier, every team does have injuries, but maybe not like this. This is a 1 in a 10 season kind of year here. We can only hope things get better. But I know this. There have been some games when the Pels have gone out there and showed effort and won games that I don't know how the hell they won with. So let's see if he can put it together and give him one more shot. Doesn't work out? Then where are you? You're 1 season behind where you were. Let's see what happens in the draft with this team as well. But I'm all about backing Willie Green for one more year. That is going to pretty much wrap it up for us on the show today. I want to thank Larry Holden. I want to thank you. We had some great comments today, even if I didn't agree with you. Now, next week, a program and note. There will be no Wednesday show. I told you I was thinking about doing a Tuesday or Thursday show. It's just not going to happen. So next week, we will only be on the air on Monday and Friday. I have I have to go to the doctor with my wife on Wednesday and some other things that are work-related that I'm working on. Getting ready for our live draft show, which will be 2 weeks from yesterday on all these same channels, both this Dattitude channel and our NOLA.com Saints Insider YouTube station. So if you subscribe to us, you should give them some love as well. Also on all of our Facebook channels. Anyway, so when I'm not on the air next week, I will be working on that live show and trying to get it ready. I got a lot of stuff to do for that. So only Monday and Friday. And then the following week, we will only be Monday and Wednesday. So we got 4 shows left before the draft. Okay. And then the live draft show again on Thursday. What is it? April 24th on all these channels. I got to thank all of y'all for the love. If you're watching on Facebook, we hope you can go subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. We hope you can join us next for Mono E Monday. We will welcome in you. You will be our guest. We'll do what we normally do on Mondays. We'll probably have a guest a week from Monday. The week of the draft, I'll probably have a guest on that Monday. I don't know who our guest will be next Friday, but again, I'm going to be busy on Monday. I'm going to do Mono E Monday here, and then I'm going to be doing Eric Asher show from 4 to 6 on the Ticket 106.7. You can check that out. Also, Gabe will be back on Monday, taking over his man versus machine duties and whatever he thinks he should talk about. Mondays with Gabe. One last reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast. That includes Apple, Spotify, and many more. And find a replay of the show, as always, on NOLA.com/sports. You can check me out on bet.NOLA.com. As I said, our Saints Insiders on NOLA.com/sports/Saints. Have a fantastic, glorious weekend. My forecast widget says constant sunshine here in the New Orleans area from sunrise to sunset today through Wednesday. Get your butt outside and enjoy some of this weather because soon you ain't going to want to be outside. Palm Sunday on Sunday. Take it seriously. Tell the ones you love that you love them. Give them a kiss on the cheek for me. And we will see you on Monday. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.